Welcome guys to another episode of Tech-Tonic the podcast. So this is a new year, 2025, and we are still here. We haven't gone anywhere, but this is still Tech-Tonic. Nothing has changed. We talk tech in the most simplified way. I'm Bugs, and like always, Kingsley is here. He's behind the cameras.
How are you?
So this is one of our special episodes. We have got a guest, and he is Jabulani Chibaya. Mr. Chibaya, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Bugs.
How is 2025 so far?
2025 so far, it looks promising. It looks great. Like it's a great year. It's not a year like any other. I'm sure the lessons we have learned over the past years and last year will help us align and propel.
Yeah, that's quite a new thing. That's quite a good thing. As for me, it looks like it's just an extension of 2024. Nothing much has really changed, but I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty positive about this. Mr. Chibaya, I think you're quite a big figure within the Zimbabwean spaces. I'm talking of the work that you are doing. We have seen you participating in a number of events, tech events. Just to mention a few, I've seen you on Girls Can Code. I've seen you on the Google developer groups. I've seen you on the Python Zim event. I've seen you on some AWS meetups. These are a number of events that we have participated in. And in some of these events, you participated as a key figure in these events. And I think I want to start by asking you to share, originate your journey from the initial foray as a software engineer. I'm talking of your current stature as a thought leader and as a person who is in tech, as a person who is a thought leader in the new emerging technologies. I'm talking of the blockchains. I'm talking of AI and your involvement in all these empowerment initiatives that you have participated in. Can you share your journey in all this?
All right. My journey has quite been interesting. Like it has been influenced more about what I studied in university, where I read towards business management and IT. Then after that, I started to work in consulting. So in consulting, I was exposed to a lot of different stakeholders or platforms that allowed me to be interested in a lot of things, as you were saying. And I used to emulate Silicon Valley a lot. And I was much delighted by what I would see in other countries, even here in Africa, close home in South Africa, seeing developers who were hosting events, learning new things and teaching others. And in Kenya, I was hearing about a lot there, and in West Africa, around 2014-15, those were the countries you would hear in tech, startups and big companies like Microsoft and Google setting up office there. So ever since then, I always told myself that I also want the same for Zim. So I started to look for different communities alike in open source community. My first one was PyCon Zimbabwe in 2017, which I joined, like it was in 2016 rather, when I first joined as an attendee. I was still a student. Then from there on, I discovered others from international speakers who came to Zim, like PyData, NumFocus and stuff, and I started to have a deeper appreciation and exposure to open source technologies, to open source frameworks, meetups. I started to follow some of them on YouTube, their conferences, their activities, and from there on I had a strong passion and interest in being a speaker, in being a mentor, and also as someone who needed to gain more skills and exposure, because it's something that you really learn in a formal school setup or in a formal workplace. So in that type of developer ecosystem, it's relaxed, it's free, you can be vulnerable, and you can learn a lot direct from people that you would never have met anyway. So it fed into my personal development, and it built my journey stronger going forward.
Yeah, I think listening throughout what you're saying, there's much of learning, there's much of intention in doing things, saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to push myself toward this, and learning. And one thing that I really know, the IT field, and including the business field, these things are forever changing, especially the IT field. Like, that things, new things will be emerging each and every day. And I can simplify and say IT field, technology field is always in a constant state of flux. Like, there is something that comes up new in each every day. And given the dynamics of these environments, how do you sustain or how do you remain motivated and remain committed to continuously learn and be in touch with all these technologies?
For me, it is something that I got to know when I started to learn software engineering. I remember when I was in university and I stumbled upon the IEEE Code of Ethics for software engineers. And there was a point which said that as a software engineer, as part of the ethics of trade, like for doctors and nurses or accountants, it's common to do CPD or continuous professional development. It's enforced there. And if you don't do it, they can take your license or buy you from practicing. But in IT, there's sort of like less of standards, so it's more like anyone can do whatever they do as long as they get the job done in their workplace or something. But still, as a field, there are certain moral guidelines that guide us, as I was saying, the IEEE Software Engineers Code of Conduct. So one of the points was that when you choose to be a software engineer, you will abide by continuous learning, lifelong learning, which means as someone, like these days, we now write softwares that are even used for things that are mission critical or essential to the running of the economy. So as a person, you would want to be a professional that gives the right assurance or continues to develop themselves. So for me, I make sure that I read around the reports from international research firms, consulting firms on where the field is going in terms of industry and business trends, new skills. I track new languages, which ones are becoming more popular, changes in cybersecurity and outlook like that. So it has become a habit where I constantly go through my LinkedIn feed or Twitter feed. I get new insight. If there's a new report, I follow it. I do the same on YouTube, or I ask around. And also as someone who is very involved in many communities of software, so I always get asked by students and professionals what's trending, what's popping. So it ends up as a push to me now to be able to answer those questions. So in the end, I will always be on top of whatever is going on. I will always be informed, because I know that someone will come and ask me what's new in AI, what's new in blockchain, or which is the best framework I can choose, or a career guidance question, so I'm always on my toes because of that.
You mentioned that it's your habit that you go on LinkedIn and check what's new and all those kind of things. And from what I know about you and what you're saying, I've seen that your professional portfolio is actually, it's remarkably extensive, and it encompasses a variety of roles and responsibility. That includes mentoring all those people you're saying, students, and giving information, even answering some of the questions that some people in the society may have in their mind. And I want to know, what are some of the habits or routines that you believe contribute most to your success in both technology and business? I know you've mentioned the going on LinkedIn and checking what's trending. What are some of the habits and routines that you believe they contribute most to success in all these fields?
For me, what contributes most is reading. I read a lot, like books and magazines on tech, and also I take a lot of online courses on Udemy and on different platforms I come across, especially the free and short ones. So an online course is good in that another profession who is above me or who has more years or is doing something in another market or industry will share their knowledge in that course. And most of online courses these days are no longer like the school setup, formal textbook stuff. There are people who will be teaching you from a case study perspective of either a company they have done work for or a company they work for. So those habits have helped me a lot in keeping abreast with the industry changes. And it also ends up challenging me to want to really know more about the next thing, because technology is more like always bringing new ways or new methods of doing things or making things better. So if you are behind, you become obsolete and you cannot contribute much.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And we are in a new era where I think it's mostly the most buzzword that is being talked about right now in the streets by even a general user, a tech buzzword, it's AI. There is nothing else. So I saw you wrote somewhere, I think it was your LinkedIn, yeah, where you said you advise the SMEs and the entrepreneurs on leveraging data technology models, and then you said also you on AI and strategies to solve complex business problems. And can you give me your background in technology, and how do you see AI and other emerging technologies impacting business strategies? Can you take that like in a perspective that will show maybe the viewers what you do in terms of business and technology?
So for me, I've been a developer. I've been a software engineer for more than half a decade, and I've worked in
I like the way you quantified the days.
Yeah, so I've been a software engineer and consultant, and also a data engineer in different sectors of the industry, in consulting, in edutech, in fintech, and also in banking and insurance. So over the years, this has shaped me and exposed me to different sizes and complexities of problems, and it has also contributed to my experience. And what I've seen most, what matters in influencing strategy, is that companies have to understand they have to devote more time to understanding their company, their industry, and where they are, more than jumping to adopt a new technology, a new what. Because the thing with trends is that there are investors behind every hype. They want their money back.
So you want to claim for that,
You can claim.
You have to understand where you are geographically, because as much as we are in a global world, an SME in Harare is affected in a different way than an SME in Singapore, in China, in Venezuela, or Botswana. So sometimes it matters to separate reality and hype. Don't rush to just pour money or just adopt something. Because you see that for most people in certain markets, of course they need AI, but not now. What do they need? They need to make sure that they understand first what powers AI. AI is powered by data, not just data, smart and clean data, which is organized and catalogued. So it's not a matter of you taking AI and just putting it in your business without proper infrastructure. Like, what matters more is someone who is extensively also exposed to business, is that philosophy and mindset is more important than the technology you have. Someone with a great mindset and philosophy will do more. That is why people with less than 200 megabytes of RAM, they send a man to the moon. But we now have Core i9s, MacBook M4s, with people struggling to make a small company profitable. Then you wonder where we went wrong with faster networks, IoT, AI and stuff. So I guess people have to know that at the end of the day, business serves people. Technology is a means to an end, not an end to itself. So don't put all your eggs in one basket, and that your strategy does not have to be more on pouring money into software or hardware only. Understand your business and then incorporate people, processes, and technology in such a way that even if you put 1,000, you get 10x or more from it, than just trying to go with the buzzwords. Because the thing with buzzwords is a lot of journalism, marketing, and venture capital goes ahead of reality on the ground. Because those three industries, they thrive on what's trendy, what's catchy, what's what. Like, for example, around the 74s, when SAP launched an ERP, I read in some management book that the managers who were in attendance were very happy and jovial that, wow, now something has come which will just organize my departments. To them, they thought it was going to be plug and play. So they went back and saw that SAP ERP, for example, doesn't just work like that, like any other ERP. So it was now when the rubber meets the road is when people knew that if your business is not organized, a new technology, new hype or whatever is not going to change anything. As Bill Gates says that if you put technology to an inefficient process, it makes it more inefficient. If you put technology to an efficient process, it makes it more efficient. That is why people are still an important factor in any business or any technology that we use. Don't just invest in tech, also invest in people so that they match together. Tech is a tool, so what matters more are people, because people will always be there, but tech will change, and it's so dynamic that sometimes you cannot keep up with the changes. But at least if your people, you empower and future-proof them to able to deal with any business problem or technology, you are more well-placed than someone who has to rely on a new tech. What happens when you don't have enough financial muscle to get on the next hype?
So, Kingsley is so heavy, everything that is said. But I just want to get some clarity out of that. If I bring you to my small company right now, and I want an advice from you, what should I do? Should I hire more people? Should I start using AI more? Should I invest more in these technologies? Should I balance the two? What advice do you give me, considering the state of technology right now?
That is a very hard question to do because, I think what you ask me is like there's disruptive innovation which is going to come your way, and what can you do? It's like a question about the future. The future is uncertain and it's not easy to know what's best to do. But as I have said earlier, best understand your organization. Use the simplest of tools like a SWOT analysis. Then from the opportunities and strength, you know what needs to be done more. Start with the people because that's the easiest. And those are the ones that will use the technology and whatever you do after. So I always say that do a screening around of your organization, of your market, where it's going, where you are placed. Because what I know best is that things to do with innovation, always focus to your strength and advantages. Don't try, because efficiency or excellence in business will never come from outside your business or whatever you bring. Otherwise, it might make everything works. Everything comes from within. So focus on how you lead. By leading or innovating, I mean how do you get from where you are to where you want to be, which is more of a strategy and philosophical question, but you can distill it down to the specific problems at your hand and see that which ones can you put people ahead and which ones can you put take on.
Okay, we've got 2 episodes on this podcast that had controversial titles. I just want to have your take on those 2 episodes. The first one was titled "What We Don't Need." What we need right now is not ChatGPT as Zimbabweans. What's your take on that?
I think generative AI or LLMs, as you have said, ChatGPT, it's not something that we can say that we don't need, because they are bringing information closer to people. Because as we said earlier, that we are in a VUCA environment, which is a volatile and unambiguous and complex environment. So to say that we don't need something that allows us to get information quicker or to have a better decision framework would be like, I'm sure you've seen a meme where people would be pushing a cart with box wheels and someone is offering them some round wheels and they are saying we are busy. So we'll be busy but not taking something that can help us. I'm sure where our economy is, it's still growing, it's still adapting. Many businesses are still on the digital transformation journey. So we definitely need generative AI, but maybe how we should use it or the way we should apply it more is the question. But I'm sure as a country with a growing economy, which is more of SMEs and entrepreneurs, they are dealing with a lot of uncertainty, and ChatGPT can help with quicker information on their fingertips. Because if you would want to do research on your own, go in the field or wait for a Google form to be filled, then analyze it, by the time you act, your competitor will be ahead of you. So let's take advantage of the tools around us, but let's use them where we get more advantage and value creation.
You guys need to watch the episode and hear the view that our guest on that episode had. Nonetheless, what we've said is quite an interesting thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. Then the other episode was titled, what is it called? Starlink was a hoax marketed very well. What's the take on that again?
I'm indifferent on that, but to me, I can't say it was a hoax because we had done well on mobile internet penetration, which was over 90%, but we still had a lot of unsaved areas in terms of network, or areas that had connectivity which was not reliable. I'm sure there are people who have gone to certain places outside of our major cities. You try to do a mobile transaction, the network is down. You try to do some online banking out of a certain zone, or certain schools that were still to get on the broadband. So I think Starlink, for most people without a privilege outside of the normal life of city life, or those who would afford fiber or the mobile broadband, it brought a relief, because with Starlink it's a plug and play thing. Instantly you're connected at affordable prices. But the latency is still something that is still coming down for Zim, because we are still to get ground stations for Africa. We still need, I think we were connecting in Spain when Starlink came, the ground stations. And in Kenya, they are setting up some ground stations, and hopefully South Africa and Botswana will do the same. So for me, any type of connectivity, I give it a thumbs up, because it helps us get real then to adopt other things like AI, because AI also needs faster internet and everyone to be on board.
Yeah, you still need also to watch that episode. There were some quite interesting views that were shared, and what advice will you give to tech professionals, or like tech professionals aspiring to transition into leadership roles, whether it's in the tech sector or beyond? What kinds of would you offer them to navigate the pivotal career shift from being just a tech guy, maybe to be in the leadership roles?
From my exposure, the advice I would give to someone who is in a technical field going to a leadership is that prepare yourself for a lot of learning. I'm sure for someone who is experienced with tech, you can get a totally new framework today, read the documentation, go to GitHub or somewhere, and you are building something. But in leadership, you are dealing with people. Invest in your soft skills, invest in new knowledge. Like, you are now entering in a space where you need more skill more than just technical. That is, you need to be good in project management, you need to be good in leadership itself, you need to be good in other areas. You need to understand, like, for example, finance. Like John Yenes, the chairman of Google, always says that if you can write code, you should also be understanding the balance sheet, so that, because all the conversation in business, no matter the industry, the higher you go, you're always talking about numbers, be it revenue, profit, customers, and what. The thing that executive managers or leaders lose sleep over are numbers. So get into that habit of understanding things like strategy. Take some courses on strategy which are biased towards tech or your relevant field. Find a mentor, because to try to do things on your own might take you longer, or you might go on the wrong route. So find mentors and sponsors along the way, and also try to link with people outside your field and hear what they can help you with, like playing with lawyers, accountants, playing with auditors, so that at the end of the day you get a hybrid type of knowledge and you are able to create value. Because in leadership or going up the ladder, it's all about value creation. Because anyone can write code if they give their time to it, but not anyone can lead or manage a project or innovatively solve a challenge or bring a solution. So you need to be ready to work also with diverse people with different approaches to way of doing things. Like in software, there's a lot of a standardized way of doing things, but in leadership, everyone is their philosophy. So juggling, understanding personalities, communication, and collaboration can really make you a good and efficient team player. Because at the end of the day, if you are leading and no one is following, you are not a leader.
Yeah, if there is an episode that I've learned quite a number of things, this is one of them.
I told you need to.
And apparently Kingsley was silent for the past 30 minutes. Yeah, there are a lot of things that I learned today.
That's right.
Yeah, for you. We're about to come to the end of this episode. But before my last question, I want to know from you, is there anything that you want to share that you feel like probably didn't give you a chance to talk about? Anything at all?
I think what I didn't get enough time to talk about is that when there is a hype in any technology, people tend to want to rush to adopt it first, then think about privacy, ethics, and security later. So I would want to know that what can we do better in different sectors. It seems like we build the ship, then think about what we would do when a heavy storm comes. I think it's best that before we leave the harbor, we come with our life jackets, with our beyonds and people who will be able to save us in a storm, because it would not be good, for example, to mass roll out AI in healthcare. Then we found that we have exposed the privacy of patients to people outside our jurisdictions. This can also affect the regulatory compliance, ethics, and brands of different organizations. It can also ruin trust, because the most important things in business is trust. It won't be good that you are excellent in technology and efficiency, but you have ruined trust. So maybe if we could also, as tech people, it might also add on to the earlier question you asked about what can someone do if they want to go into leadership. These are also some of the areas they would need to look at. That how do you maintain trust in a digital world? How do you innovate while also keeping your customers in the loop? I'm sure there are concepts like design thinking and co-creation in innovation. It's something like in most books you would see that these are things they put in the last chapters which no one read. Who would care to read about chapter 30 when they've read all the information they want about building an API, a gateway, an app, or a website? No one would care about that. So it is now us bringing the topics that are always last on conferences, books to the forefront, because this is what will cost a lot of businesses going forward. compliance, regulation, and things like that. These are the things which also shapes leadership and make sure that our innovations cover not just the technical aspect, but they also respect the people we serve.
Mr. Chibaya, I think we are about Kingsley. Why can't we make this guy our CEO? I mean, of the podcast. I'm talking about the podcast, nothing else. Any question? Okay. Oh. So. Come on. So this brings us to the last part of each and every one of our episodes, where we try to challenge the guest, the imagination of our guest, and we ask them to imagine that they are interviewing or they're talking to our next guest that you don't know it, and they will leave a question for the next guest. They will leave the question for that guest. So there is a question that was left for you by our previous guest. So the question was, this was a long question. Anyway, the question was, in our nation, we are so used to Me Too businesses. For example, there was a point where people were importing groceries from our neighboring countries and everyone was doing it. There was a point where Shiuta was introduced and everyone jumped into the wagon. And so the question was, how can we learn to build businesses that last, not just businesses that help us fund the next meal, or business or form business that a person just forgive me. So the question was, how can we learn to build a business that lasts, not just a business that helps us to fund the next meal, or businesses that other people have started and we decide to follow suit? Hope one answers this question. Yes. I feel like you were the for the past Mageti Satagawa, you are the one who is rightfully you can answer this rightfully. Yeah.
So for me, I have a strong interest and have been studying entrepreneurship, formal and informal, and also looking at great people like Steve Jobs, Strive Masiwa, Shinge Mtasa, and a lot of other key people in our tech market here in Zimbabwe and executives. One thing which stand out for me, which I've seen, is that the most important thing about a business is crafting a vision. Don't just start a business to say that I want to sell product A or offer service A. I'm sure there was a time when we had the landline only. And no one could ever thought that there going to be anything better than a landline. We now have watches that can connect to GPS, answer calls, track your heart rate, BP and stuff. A watch, something that was once fixed on the wall. So what I think is most is one should have a vision that outlasts the current problems. If you have only 3 problems ahead of you, try to craft a vision that is beyond those 3 problems. Because sometimes what we think are problems is just a lack of a certain infrastructure or disposable income in a certain demography. Once that demography can afford those things, you'll find that you didn't have a business. You had a convenient way for people to relieve pain. So let's think beyond the current today and think that if Zim was perfect and all the current problems we have today, what business could you be doing? That way, when you start to think in terms of decades, in terms of 50, 100 years, like for most organizations like AT&T, They are over 50 years, I guess. They are also behind the invention of programming languages like C and C++. To them, they were not just a phone company. They had an inspiring and overarching vision to connect people or something. So if your vision is about connecting people, you won't be stuck in one phase or technology. So even after 20 years, you'll be there. So try to think in terms of how can you make society better? How can you put forward your country economy? I'm sure there are countries that 40 years ago no one would talk of, but today they are leaders in chip manufacturing. They are leaders in making certain components for EVs, electric vehicles and stuff. Those people 40 years ago, they were only known for farming rice, but someone had to think beyond rice. And thinking beyond rice was not to have a good packaged rice. It was to have a country that leads in certain areas, that uses the knowledge of its people to do more, to create more value. I'm sure another way to best under this is that what is not being taught in school that we can teach people today, so that we don't just have a replicas of what's happening next door, that someone sees someone selling masai or eggs, they go and do that. Let's have a way of talking about value creation. That way, whatever problem comes, people can be able to pivot, adapt and grow.
Mr. Chibaya, this is the end of our interview. So you are now the CEO of our company. So I think this is one of the most insightful discussion that we have ever had on Tech-Tonic the podcast, and I'm at least, I don't know what to say. Anyway, see you on the next episode, guys. See you on the next episode. Click the subscribe button, click the notification button, and tell others to watch this very same episode. We're out.